Excuse me! Taxi!
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Let's go, Luke.
It's the first date, yeah.
Lou, you are here because obviously the big Greek parade is taking place end of April, but today is Greek Independence Day. And Lou Katsos, you're the chairman of the Greek Independence Day Parade. Tell us all about it.
Yes, I am. And this year is a very important year. This is the 205th anniversary of the start of Greek independence. But also this is the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. So our logo for this particular year is a 205-250, and the linkages between the two nations over time. Because don't forget, the Greek Revolution started approximately 2 generations after the start of the American Revolution, and there was a tremendous upsurge in the United States and part of American history, what they call the Greek fever period, which was in the 1820s, where Americans supported the revolution in many ways. They raised money, they sent food, they sent clothes, etc. And so the linkage between these two nations and the 205-250 is something that's the signature of this particular event. It's not only about the Greek parade, because don't forget, this is not a parade in Greece. This is a parade in the United States of America. So this parade is also an American parade. And when you look historically of the link between those two nations over time, you realize that this parade is something extremely important, because most people look today as Greece as a small country in Europe, etc. But when the Greek Revolution broke out, it was the post-Napoleonic period. No one in Europe wanted a revolution. As a matter of fact, there was a pact between the nations of Europe not to allow any revolutions to take place in Europe. So when it broke out, the reality is the nations of Europe were not in fact with the revolution. They were in fact with the Ottoman Empire. It's the people themselves of the various countries, in particular the intellectual class, people who were professors, etc., classics professors in universities in Germany and Europe, etc. And then, but when it hit the United States, it was like an explosion. And that period, like I said, is part of American history that we don't teach in school, and we should. A very significant part of history. Because not only were men involved, but for the first time, women was extremely involved in that particular period, the Greek fever period. And the Greek Revolution, we don't mention it, but the Greek Revolution affected the American abolitionist movement and also the women's suffrage movement in the United States. You say how?
Wow.
How? Okay. How? Because when it broke out, it wasn't only an intellectual thing where they raised money and sent money to Greece. Americans also went to Greece to fight. So you had Samuel Gridley Howe, for example, who went to Greece. You had Jonathan Miller. You had the African American slave James Williams, who went and fought in Greece, and others. And some died in Greece and are buried in Greece to this day. When they came back, because of this period to relieve the Greeks of slavery, when they came back, some of these people from the United States who went to Greece who came back, they became leaders in the abolitionist movement of the United States.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. Yeah. I think a lot of people don't realize that.
We've done lectures on that. It's like a very big deal. And as a matter of fact, I had with Black history professors, for example, we had lectures on this particular thing. And the women who were there during that time, they were also abolitionists. So, for example, when we talk about Samuel Gridley Howe, abolitionist, major abolitionist. Right. When we talk about Jonathan Miller, major abolitionist in the United States. So that was part of what propelled people with the abolitionist movement, because the rhetoric, both with black abolitionists and white abolitionists, the rhetoric was the same rhetoric that they used to support the Greeks in the Greek Revolution against slavery.
Wow, very powerful. By the way, the Greek community is so huge. It's like about 200,000 just in this area alone. This area is the biggest, right? New York, Astoria, Brooklyn. Where's the biggest hubs? Where can I get some really great Greek food? Because it is the best.
Well, there's great Greek food everywhere, by the way, whether it's in Manhattan and Queens and Long Island. So yes, it's food, but we look at sometimes the Greeks as the immigrant community, but the reality is that the first people who came here with any, let's say, strength were the merchants of Greece. And some of them were actually orphans of the Greek Revolution, and they were major merchants, international merchants, And in fact, for a period, they controlled the cotton trade of the South.
Well, and shipping, huge shippers,
Well,
obviously.
shipping for the audience that may not know this, 80% or more, let's say 85% of all the products that move around in the world, are by shipping. And 20% of all the stuff in the world that moves around is with Greek shippers. Okay. So it's a big deal. Whether you're talking about oil or you're talking about any other type of product, we're there. Whether you're talking about the Middle East right now in the war, the Straits of Hormuz, there's Greek ships right there. Okay. So yeah.
Well, that's a big accomplishment. So tell everybody about the parade, how they can find out more, and also how they can be a part, because you even brought up, you even invited, the Polish, diplomats. You've invited everybody. I love it.
Well,
it's a beautiful parade.
Well, there are Polish people who are going to be, marching with us, as well as the Haitians, because they were the first nation to actually acknowledge the revolution in the world, actually. So that's very important. There were about 13 or 14 nations where people from different countries came to support the revolution. So this year, we're going to invite the diplomats of all these various nations to the parade and to some of the events. The parade itself is on April 26th. We're going to have a gala on April 24th. We're going to have a flag raising at Bowling Green on the 24th. And there's actually 20 or so different events, whether they're dance events, whether they're costume events, and whether they're intellectual type events with lectures and things of that nature. And they're constant. All you have to do is go on the website in terms of the Federation of Hellenic Societies in New York, and you can get the information to all these different events.
Fantastic. It sounds really fun.
I can remember, one time I was chairman about 100 years ago, and I had Tony Orlando as the, and I love telling this story. Tony Orlando is a Greek-Rican. He's half Puerto Rican and half Greek.
Right.
And he was going, his father was Greek and his mother was Puerto Rican, and he was going up Fifth Avenue and singing. And then he swung back around and he came over to where I was on like 59th Street or something, and he was crying.
I think I was there then. Yes.
And you know what he said to me? I said, "What? Tony, you're right. What's the matter?" He says, "I felt my Greek father watching down on me as I was going up Fifth Avenue."
Rita, so you were there 100 years ago when Tony Orlando,
I was in the womb at that point.
Okay. One of the things that I appreciate about the Greek community is, as Lou, especially your parade, is you put the American flag in the forefront.
Absolutely.
And I wish that every immigrant community that does, whether it's Dominicans or Puerto Ricans or Ecuadorians or Colombians
or Polish
or Polish, whatever, I think that they should always put the American flag in the forefront of these parades, because, hey, you're celebrating it because you're in America.
Yes.
You can't celebrate it in certain countries because they don't allow it.
And you're celebrating freedom.
And we're celebrating freedom. Yes. So I want to commend you and,
thank you. And,
for what you're doing.
And this year, because it's the 250th anniversary, when we raise the flags, both the Greek and the American flag, we're going to raise the Betsy Ross flag of 1776.
Great.
Also, all right, we're going to have to take a break, and then we're going to come back with General Keane.
Although, you know what? We have a quick little music here for Lou. Here we go.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And for you, John. And for you, George.
How about for me?
So shall I get
You're not
I'm
Greek.
Greek.
We're
all Greek today.
We're all Greek
Here we
today.
go.
Every day.
Hoppa. Where's the plates? I want to break some plates.
Also, John's the Grand Marshal, one of the Grand Marshals.
Yes. Oh, wow. John, you left that out.
No, well, honorary, whatever.
No, you're not honorary. You're a Grand Marshal.
He's a Grand Marshal. Who better?
Yeah.
For life.
Lou, thank you very much.